Woo! Man, I got to tell you, that was close. I thought we were going to get through a season without hearing anything stupid out of Sheryl Swoopes' mouth and anything that sounds rather interesting, something that you might choose to give some side-eye to.
In one sweeping move, the Indiana Fever shocked the basketball world by cutting not what began as a routine roster change swiftly escalated into a full-fledged league drama that was tense and included headlines that nearly wrote themselves when even after being exiled to unknown places, Swoopes keeps showing up out of the blue. What did she have to say? And how is the Indiana Fever putting an end to all of this noise? Tell us what you think of Swoopes. Let's go in the comments section.
And you have a black player that just got cut, and Sheryl Swoopes is not happy about that.
First, let's talk about the cuts that garnered media attention. One of the most drastic preseason roster decisions in recent memory was just made by the Indiana Fever. Bree Hall, the electric guard and two-time national champion from South Carolina, was fired before she had a chance to play a single minute in the first game against Washington. She played a few minutes against Brazil, and then she was gone. If that felt like a gut punch, wait, because the Fever wasn't over yet.
Call me nuts, but unfortunately for the old WNBA fandom and media, in her case, media and old players, unfortunately, in some cases, you do feel like there is something else lurking behind said opinions that may not be basketball related. Let's put it that way.
About a day later, the team declared that two rookies with dazzling college resumes and genuine promise were given pink slips before they could even unpack their bags. Ivani Jip, the Gonzaga scoring leader and a player with enough heart to power the entire Pacific Northwest, was also cut. The brutality of professional sports is evident in the fact that both of them had hardly any time to warm up before being taken out of commission. Timing fit is more important than talent, and occasionally the financial side of basketball collides with roster math fantasies.
Hall is now gone, as you know, and today it was announced that Yvonne Ejim has been waived by the Fever as well. Sophie Cunningham talked about that yesterday, saying you can latch on to another team, another place.
Just because you didn't make a roster doesn't mean you're out of the W forever.
To comprehend the pain, you must look at the Fever salary cap position because to Katie Lou Sampson's oversized deal, which the team had to buy out in order to recruit important veterans. The team could only afford to have 11 players on the roster, including Natasha Howard and other veterans. Bonner, Dana Carlson, Sydney Bree Turner-Cunningham, Sophie Sinstiris Dantas, and the recently fired Kelsey Mitchell have contracts that are guaranteed for at least a year. The Fever would still be responsible for paying their salaries on their books even if they were fired. 10 of the 11 roster spots are secured because Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, and Lexi Hull are the only players from the current roster whose salaries have been taken out of the books and are still covered by their original rookie contracts during the draft. No sane person would cut these three.
The Indiana Fever, as expected, have waived Yvonne Ejim. She's just not at the level that the Indiana Fever are hoping her to be at.
The Fever announced it directly. Thank you, Yvonne Ejim, who was the all-time leading scorer in Gonzaga history.
In actuality, all three rookies, including Michaela Timpson, who has been displaying flashes of brilliance during training camp and preseason games, are vying for a single place, and Timpson is most likely to get it since the rotation needs younger forwards, and Timpson can run the floor and offer top defense. Supporters are referring to her as the draft steal, selected 19th when many anticipated her to be in the top 10.
Man, it's hard, right? We all reached out. I think that they brought really good people in, great people into training camp this year. But just because you didn't make this squad, this is probably one of the harder rosters to make in the W this year. It doesn't mean you're out of the W, and you just got to keep ready, keep playing, keep grinding it out. And if it's hard to make the league. I know Sid and I, we were second rounders. We stuck. Her experience is a little bit different than mine, but just because you didn't make a roster doesn't mean you're out of the W.
These cuts hurt because they represent more than just talent. They represent hope, and just like that, two dreams were postponed. For fans of Hall and Egypt, this was more than just a box score move. It was the harsh intersection of salary caps, limited roster spots, and the fierce competition for a championship window.
Kayla Simpson is obviously at a certain level. She's a rim runner. She just obviously has a higher ceiling than Ejim at the moment. And this is maybe a hot.
Naturally, the response came quickly, with Sheryl Swoopes leading the charge with a megaphone. When Bree Hall's cut appeared on the newswire, Swoopes glowed as if she had been anticipating this kind of drama all off-season. Her comeback wasn't a lighthearted one. Rather, it was a verbal and physical assault.
We saw Sheryl Swoopes in rare form, hating on Caitlin Clark all last year. Well, maybe she has figured out, well, hating on Clark, I've been told that's not really a great idea, yada, yada, yada. So what other white girls can I tune up from the Indiana Fever?
In the most recent Women's Hoop Show episode, Swoopes not only voiced her concerns, but also launched a verbal assault against head coach Stephanie White. According to Swoopes, White not only mismanaged the rotations, but also essentially sabotaged them. She questioned why Bree Hall was kept on the bench, while others with less potential received priority minutes.
Okay, example. The Washington Mystics Indiana Fever game. Because I know on social media, people were like, well, why aren't the starters in for the Mystics? They could win this game. And I was there, right? Because preseason is about, yes, you're going to play your starters, you're going to play your players. Typically, they don't even play that many minutes, right? Because you have so many players on your roster that you got to make roster cuts. So you're still trying to figure out who can fit what we're doing.
If you're still trying to decide who to cut, why wasn't Bree Hall even playing as she demanded? If that wasn't clear enough, the subtext was even louder. This wasn't just about basketball IQ. It was about who gets the benefit of the doubt, who gets to prove themselves, and who gets benched before they even take the stage. If you thought Swoopes was finished, think again. She intensified the tension by aiming at the two players who did profit from White's strategy. Swoopes targeted two ladies, Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hull, but whose existence she asked the question with such accuracy that, let's just say, the implications were so strong that they could be heard on every WNBA Twitter account.
I did have a question, though, with Indiana, right? Because even though the starters weren't in, like Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hull they've been in the league for a while. You actually had players who, like Bree Hall, why wasn't she in that game per se? If you're still trying to figure out who's going to make the team, who you're going to cut. So I was a little confused with what Steph was doing.
That's not subtle. That's not shade. That's a full spotlight and a narrative bomb dropped in the middle of the room. Then came the comment that all but confirmed her angle Swoopes with a healthy dose of sarcasm, joking that perhaps she should concentrate on getting the other white girls on the Fever now that she'd been told to leave Clark alone.
Okay. This is gonna be a spicy season, cause Kiki was like, what, Sophie? Girl, don't come over here. Sophie was like,
already,
I was
game
here
one.
Here for it. But the fact that's a rookie, right?
I know.
Kiki,
she did not back down.
But she just turned and laughed. She was like, what? What did you say? What are we doing?
Let's not forget that this is not Swoopes' first anti-Clark tirade. She was among the first to criticize Caitlin Clark's records, her style, her swagger, her age, her leadership, and pretty much everything except her shoe size. Now that Clark has the full support of the Indiana Fever and fans worldwide, Swoopes isn't just focused on Clark. She has eyes on the entire perimeter of Cunningham Hall and anyone who dared to join forces with Clark in creating this new WNBA powerhouse hunt.
My goodness, I mean, we've had 2 preseason games. 2! And we're back to it. We're back here. She's criticizing Stephanie White. I bet Sheryl Swoopes hates that last name. Criticizing Stephanie White. And, of course, it relates to Lexi Hull and Sophie Cunningham. Ooh, I bet Sheryl Swoopes hates her some Sophie Cunningham. You know she does.
It's starting to become rather obvious at this point. While Swoopes stirs the pot, Clark and the Fever are creating excitement. Sure, they cut 2 promising rookies, and yes, that hurts, but they did it with the sole purpose of developing a contender. Swoopes doesn't just dislike what the Fever are building, she resents it. She sees this influx of young, self-assured talent reshaping the league's face, and she's not interested in celebrating it. Instead, she's here to challenge it, question it, and if necessary, scorch the court with commentary at every Turnberry Hall. And Yvonne Ejim are undoubtedly going to have successful futures, and we appreciate the energy and class they offered. However, the league is beginning to take notice of the fever they're all in.
Swoopes hadn't shied away from speaking her mind, as last season she raised questions about the legitimacy of Indiana Fever stars Caitlin Clark's collegiate scoring record. During the recent episode, Swoopes questioned Fever head coach Stephanie White's decision to give veterans like Lexi Hull and Sophie Cunningham minutes over Bree Hall and then cut her without giving her a fair opportunity to prove herself.
Because let's be honest, Coach, this is when Swoopes' hot take begins to melt under its own heat. Stephanie White's roster choices weren't made at random. Rather, they were calculated and based on a single factor that is crucial for a new, redesigned squad looking to discover its identity, chemistry, experience, and fit.
Preseason doesn't have to be just about your draft picks at all. It can be about, I need this team to learn how to build chemistry on the floor together, working as a team. By the way, learning my system because I'm a new coach and we're not playing under the Christy Sides rules anymore. You played basketball, Sheryl Swoopes? I don't understand.
With all due respect to natural talent, Sophia Cunningham and Lexi Hull have accumulated a significant amount of hard-earned playing time at this level and are familiar with tempo spacing and the demands of a professional season. They are not learning the ropes. Rather, they are anchoring them when you have a roster as young and well-known as Indiana's. You need players who can calm the commotion rather than escalating it, and who don't freak out when things become messy.
Keep in mind, a lot of this team is new to each other. So getting minutes upon with a new player like Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hull together, and some of these others, veterans, I'm sure is a priority. It's not about getting the minutes to prove whether or not they make the team. This team has to build actual chemistry if they want to win a title. That's what this is about.
And in relation to proving oneself in the Fever's exhibition match against Brazil, Sophie Cunningham accomplished just that. She demonstrated a two-way hustle, loud leadership, and an authoritative demeanor that shouted, "I belong here." This was a veteran who seized her position with both hands and challenged anyone to question it. Naturally, none of that made it into Swoopes' diatribe. Instead, she twisted it into a darker narrative that claimed Clark and her team were a part of a system that excluded worthy young players.
Whole team outside of your core four, Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, and Lexi Hull, basically the whole rest of the whole team's new. Dantas is on there. Oh, you get my point, but you got a bunch of new pieces.
Let's take a moment to zoom out and recognize the ridiculousness of what is going on with Caitlin Clark. The smiling poi, the logo sharpshooter, and the record who made the Indiana Fever a must-watch? Slayer guard instead of being the once-in-a-generation star that she is, TV is being viewed as some sort of cosmic disruption. This lady has attracted millions of new followers, changed the way that the media portrays women's sports, and made preseason games into pay-per-view events. She did more than simply increase Indiana fervor. She also skyrocketed WNBA economy ticket sales, television viewership, and merchandise sales. The league never anticipated the stimulus package that is Caitlin Clark.
Oh my gosh, Sophie's a dog. She just is, she's a competitor. She's versatile, so she allows us to do different things. Like, she plays with such a toughness. She's huge, and she's going to be for us all season long. But what she brings from an energy standpoint. She raises the level of play of everybody around her as soon as she steps foot on the floor. Hell, even on the sideline. I mean, her communication, everything. You know, she's definitely an X factor.
Only succeed, but also go above and above. If she misses a shot, it would tip the ball over, cue the thought pieces, but drain A. It's a shift that feels like a threat to the new school. It's a revolution in progress. Let's hear it with Swoopes speaking truth to power. Or is this just another instance of the old guard trying to gate? Logo 3 thread a no-look dime or pull off a game-winning run that won't just inspire. It'll provoke because in today's WNBA, Clark isn't just a player. It's about what Clark represents. She's not just ushering in a new generation. She's redefining it, and not everyone is prepared for that ride. Maintain the spotlight and share your opinions in the comments. And let us know if you're crushing it with Caitlin Clark in the Fever as well. If this is just the preseason heat, just think of what will happen when the actual season starts. Subscribe and enable all alerts so you don't miss anything.